Hey everybody, and hello again to my little mini series of interviews with interesting people. As you know, during lockdown, I started doing very small video recordings of marketing tactics that I helped people would use and be able to put into practice quickly. Then I had to think about who I'd like to be talking to and who might have other ideas that could be useful for you. And so today I'd like to welcome Shelly Davies. Hey.
Hi, kia ora. So excited that I'm an interesting person you want to talk to.
Honey, our flattery. Now, Shelly and I met a long time ago online through an introduction, which it took us a while to execute. And since then, we've done a couple of discussions together. But let's just kick off, Shelly. Why don't you tell everyone a bit about you and what you do?
Oh, goodness. So, he uri no Ngāti Wai. So my family is Ngāti Wai from Great Barrier Island, and I live in Hamilton. I've been a writer and a teacher pretty much my whole life, and I didn't really know that I could make a living off that or a successful business until a series of accidents helped me to realize that I could. And I've been running my business now for 8 years, mostly in writing training, although I'm also known as someone who helps people feel more powerful in their world. I'm very much about love and vulnerability and just being our true selves, because those are the things that have helped me feel powerful.
I remember you telling me about a super thing that you did with the Hamilton Chamber, with the female members of the chamber. And I was just really impressed that that you always assume a Chamber of Commerce is going to be a little bit staid. And clearly you were rocking it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I think that we do have perceptions around what organizations and what companies would be more conservative and those kinds of things, but it comes down to the people. It comes down to the people you connect with. And I have done work for councils that has absolutely not been conservative. And I've done my very unconservative brand appeals to government departments. I get a lot of government work. So for me, that's a really big argument for the H2H kind of view of marketing, human to human. That's what we're doing, even if it is a B2B service, which is what I provide.
And that's exactly what I do. The same again, except coming at it possibly from a slightly different slant. It's all about helping people connect with other people.
Yeah, because we're not communicating with buildings or offices. They're actually human.
Thank God. We used to have a joke when I worked in real estate in London that an awful lot of the estate agents called buildings facilities. It's like, this facility will do X, Y, and Z. And of course, it just made me laugh because my mum always thought the facilities were the toilets.
Yes, I need to find the facilities. Love it.
Got to love language, haven't you? Mm. Now, you have a superpower. I need to know what it is.
Oh, but actually, I don't know where to start. I have so many superpowers. No, I really do. I know that is not the typical kind of female approach to things. Like, look at me, I'm awesome. I am 46 and it's taken me years and years and I have many superpowers. Usually the one I talk about is empathy, because I used to think that I was overly sensitive. I used to think it was a weakness. And once I realized that that was a superpower and I could leverage off it both personally, in my personal life, in finding my power, and in my business, that was huge. But the one that I really want to talk about today is vulnerability, because I remember the first time I heard Brené Brown talk about vulnerability and actually kind of gave it a name and some research background behind it. And I went, that's what it is. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. It's been one of my ways to make people feel safe, and my ways to build connection, and my ways as a teacher or a facilitator or a speaker that help people feel so relaxed and so open to what I have to share. It's because I'm vulnerable. So there you go. That's a superpower.
I heard it said by a sales trainer who I was with a while ago. He just said, look, when you're in a face-to-face meeting, he said, nobody likes the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. So don't be that person, even if you think you are. Mm-hmm. So explain to me, how does vulnerability work? Say we're having a meeting, you know, your team and my team, we're sitting around a table. How would you use it?
Let's see. I was facilitating a kind of a brand session with a small firm just the other night, Friday night, and as we were discussing things, someone actually got teary because they had lost their mum recently, and I know that you've lost your mum, so I know that you can definitely relate to that. And that led to a reasonable amount of sharing in the room about just realities, because we all come to work, but we have these whole lives. We have children that we struggle with. We have partners that we might have struggling with, or maybe just self-doubt. Maybe it's just within ourselves, but we've all got that humanness. And so I was able to respond to this person by sharing something equally vulnerable, equally personal, and go, oh yeah, I know, I'm so sorry about your loss. One of the things that I brought with me today is that I've been struggling with fighting for my daughter and her mental health needs. And then straight away, we're on an equal plane. She's got an emotion that she's feeling. I've got something very real in my life that I'm sharing. And once people lead the way like that, and it only takes one person to lead the way, then it shifts the entire, there's a word I want to think of.
Dynamic.
Yeah, or the foundation, where we're standing, it's like it just shifts a little bit. And all of a sudden, everything's different. So for me, vulnerability is a willingness to express our imperfection, a willingness to say, hey, I don't know everything. Those kinds of things.
And do you find that people feel more able to trust, and therefore that trust flows into your business relationship as well?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So as a facilitator or a teacher or a trainer, for many years now, I have had a philosophy of helping people feel safe. And before Brené Brown came along, I didn't know that it was called vulnerability. And I just very consciously, I come into a room, I bounce around, I make silly jokes, I might share, like, oh my gosh, you guys, I just want to tell you because it's on my head. I had this real struggle on the phone this morning, or, something personal like that. That brings me and all of my humanity into the room. And once I've done that, that helps people to feel safe to do the same. Now, it doesn't mean that everyone's going to suddenly spill the beans about all of their private life and all of their challenges, and we don't want that. We just want people to know that the space is safe to bring yourself, that you don't have to have these false barriers up, that protections up that we put that take a lot of effort to kind of keep the professional and the personal separate. There's such a shift in the way of looking at that today.
Is there a male-female dynamic here? Because I was in a meeting this morning with a male client, and he chose to share something that would absolutely fit into your definition of vulnerability, which I was, flattered and surprised, because there's that slightly Kiwi male thing, which I think applies to British men as well. They're like not usually onto that sort of plane. Yeah. How would you interpret that?
I think there are a lot of gender dynamics, definitely. And traditionally, women are more able to express our emotions than men. If I think about the demographic that me and my very vulnerable, very authentic brand appeals to, I assumed for a long time that it was only women, but I have a really strong male following as well now. And so I know that there are plenty of men who I would categorize as being on a journey of self-awareness, or men that have high emotional, high EQ, emotional intelligence. Those are the ones that I think respond really, really well to that. And there are definitely still people who will be uncomfortable in a room when that kind of sharing happens. But my absolute experience says that it's the minority. And there will be some women too who are like, oh, no, I'm not sharing anything like that. Yeah, we're human.
Spectrum.
Yeah, we have our different lines that we draw. But the risk that I take to establish a safe space like that pays off 99% of the time. And the potential benefit to the people in the room is too great for me to not take that personal risk on behalf of the group.
So that's your superpower, as we called it. And everybody has something that is their thing that really helps them be authentically themselves in business. Now, you also teach people how to find out what this is and then what to do with it. So how do I claim my power?
Oh, it's such a big discussion, and I know we haven't got all day. But yeah, we could go all day. Okay, so there are a range of ways to do this, right? First of all, a quick discussion on what power is, because lots of people think it can have a negative connotation, like power and control or something. For me, claiming your power is about, what does power look like in my world? as big or as small as that world is, what does it look like when I can make powerful choices for myself and that I claim the power? So I don't give my power away by giving other people permission to tell me what I can and can't do. And it's the same when I walk into a room as a trainer or a keynote or whatever. I don't ask permission to do the things that I know are going to work well. I don't ask permission to use my expertise, because as soon as you ask permission, you're giving your power away. So that's one thing. Another part of claiming power is about getting a really insightful understanding into the way your brain works, because all of our brains are vastly different. Getting some insight into the strengths in your thinking patterns and the potentially, I'm going to say weaknesses. I'm using it more and more these days because I'm like, whatever, PC, I've got weaknesses. I've got areas where I'm not strong. And my current goal is not to build up those areas and become stronger. It's to mitigate them by making sure that I have people around me who can fill the gaps, because they're not my strengths. And I'd rather continue to strengthen my strengths than put effort into those. And so understanding how our minds work and how our brains work, so that then we have so much more power over the way we respond in any given situation. When someone says something that we don't like or that we're uncomfortable with, when someone doesn't do something and we thought that they should and we have a response to that, when we don't like what we see around us or what we hear, we have responses to all those things. And if we're not aware of our thinking patterns, then we have much less control over how we respond. Because life and our ability to be powerful in it is not about what happens to us. It's about how we respond to it.
That is a great, great statement. And I can certainly see it in things like brand positioning. I am always, and have for a long time, advocated a really niche positioning. And I laugh when I say this, but when I put on my website B2B marketing, I ended up getting more inquiries, often actually about B2C marketing, but that didn't matter. In a way, it was, well, that's interesting. Why is it? And so I think niching down onto your areas of strength is a really good parallel on a personal level and a professional level, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, there's a process. Know yourself so that you can love yourself, because I don't think we can love ourselves without real understanding into who we are and how we work, so that then you can find your power, and that's how I get to joy. That's the process for me. Know yourself so you can love yourself. You can find power and have joy. And if I could wave a magic wand for the world, that's what it would be. I would want people to feel as powerful in their world as I do, because it feels like a really privileged position to be in, where I have power in my own world.
Shelly, you have an amazing website. Talk a little bit about what's on there if people want to go and find out more about you and what you do.
Sure. Most of what's on my website is about writing training, business writing, technical writing, those kinds of things. If you need better emails, I've got an online course. All right, so all of these years of training people how to use a stronger, more assertive, more authentic voice helped me get stronger and more authentic. And that's what brought me talking to people about how to find their power, because anyone who spends time in a room with me knows I don't just talk about writing, because writing is not just about words. It's about getting the clarity on what you want to say and why you want to say it. It's about getting clarity on the outcomes that you want. We think that writing is about words on a page or on a screen, but actually it's about humans asserting ourselves, making a message clear, interacting with others. And so that's why my website says writing, joy, and badassery, because it is a whole package.
And you have a newsletter that people can join. Now, I know, because I'm a member myself, that you often give really great examples. Here is something that someone has written. Here is what could be misunderstood. Here is how you could write it better, and the techniques that you use. So it's deeply practical.
Yes. So sometimes it is about joy and how to feel more powerful in your world. And a lot of the time it's about writing, like, how do we write that conversation follow-up email or the pushback email? Or how do you write the perfect report? Yeah, pushback emails. That's a special skill right there. So just if you jump on my website at the bottom there, you can sign yourself up, and that's it. Just one email a week with whatever joy I feel like giving to the world that week.
I like the unstructured nature of that, and it certainly resonates with the work that I was doing in lockdown, where I just felt I couldn't plan ahead, and I just dealt with what was here today now.
Yeah, just rolling with it. I have found that very, very freeing. That and shaving my head. I'm going to save a lot of money by not dyeing my hair and getting massive haircuts all the time.
And far less shampoo.
Yeah, so much less shampoo. Winning all around. In fact, if I put a beanie on in the morning, my hair is done.
And with that very handy life skill there, Shelley, thank you. It's been an absolute delight hanging out with you. And to all our listeners, please get in touch, put comments below. And if you've got someone else or you would like to come and have a little mini chat with me, let's do it.
Kia ora, Rebecca.
Till next time. Bye-bye.